All right. Hey guys, hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to film like a little video. I wanted to film something. I have always wanted to talk about this. It's not that I don't know how to approach it. I mean, not that it's disrespectful, but I am going to be talking about my work experience at Zara. I will say this is the worst job I ever had. I worked it 2 years ago in the summer. So it was the summer going into my sophomore or junior year of college. I just wanted some, extra cash in my pocket. I actually was working at Zara while I had my other primary job, and I'm just gonna talk about a couple things off my dome that I could think of. Also, disclaimer, this is in no way, please don't, I would hope no one would, but don't send hate to Zara or any of the locations. Like I said, it's probably different in all locations. I don't know if it's like a rule type of thing they follow, but yeah, don't send hate. They have great clothing. I worked with some very nice people. A lot of the people were nice there. Yeah, they were nice people. So I've heard through the grapevine after I worked at Zara how it's a common thing for a lot of girls or boys to hate working at Zara. I never watched any of the YouTube videos, but I've always seen like thumbnails saying it's the worst job, whatever. I've never watched them, so this video is not gonna be like biased in terms of like, oh, I heard this from there. I'm just gonna talk about my experience. I wanna say I worked there for about 2 months, 2 months, I wanna say. I'll get into all that. So, I guess I'll start off with super like rules. You couldn't chew gum. I mean, I get that because like couldn't chew gum, you couldn't curse, which I know you shouldn't be cursing in the work environment, but you let a word slip and they look at you like you freaking someone. Super strict. You would have to have iPods. You're dealing with customers. People are calling. You got to answer the phone. You got to look up items. And then this was around COVID, so we changed the return policy. So it went from 90 days to 30 days. You would have to deal with some customers who weren't so happy about that. And hey, I get it. Whatever. I send the rules off. I don't do any of that. Management there. Okay, management. There were managers there. They were okay. I really liked the one. Of course, he like barely was working when I was. But there was this one girl I worked with. She kind of trained me. She was cool, but she was a bit of like I'm gonna train you to know what the hell you're doing, and she did. I liked her, but she kind of told the managers what to do, and that right there kind of showed me like this is poor management. And I mean, I know it's not just clothing stores who have poor management, but that like kind of stood out to me. I didn't really like how the dynamic of it. I'm big on vibes and shit. When I get to work, I would just be like, ugh. Like I wouldn't be upset, but I'm like I'm back here, and I'll get to like how everything ended and all that. But yeah, and then this one manager had an extreme attitude problem. Some of the customers even told her that she had a very big attitude problem. You weren't able, if we did cash returns, you couldn't handle the money. You would have to ring a manager, and most of the time, the manager was either sitting on their ass somewhere, in the big mall somewhere else, in the break room or upstairs, pretty much anywhere where they weren't able to you couldn't get them quick enough. So you're waiting on the manager to come, and there's just this long line out the door. The person who you're dealing is just waiting for their money, and all they're doing is popping open the register, giving them the money. Oh, here you go. And I forget exactly a lot of things required a manager to be present. And like I said, it was annoying because the managers kind of prioritized everything but helping the cashiers, and we kind of did the most work. I remember one time, my mic wasn't working, like I didn't have the volume up, and I was like, I need a manager at cashier 4. 10 minutes goes by, I'm like, I need a manager at cashier 4. Manager comes, she goes, here's the issue. Is this on? Turns my mic on, she's like, you weren't hearing me. She's like, I told you I'd be a few minutes. This bitch took 15 minutes to just give this girl $30 back because I can't, you can't type in the pin. No one knows the pin but the managers. No other managers around. And this was mad at me because I didn't hear her for how long she was going to take. I was like, bro, what? You got an attitude with a freaking 19, 20-year-old kid because I'm trying to do my job. don't get me started. Listen, I get, when you're higher up in the company, you get to kind of do whatever you want, but the managers would leave 2-3 hours in the shift. The managers, if they want to go home, they go the fuck home, and we deal with all this shit. A lot of the times when, when people are like, oh, I want to speak to a manager, whatever, most of the time, we are the manager. Like, you would have to deliver the bad news sometimes, or we can't do this, I'm sorry. Like, it was ridiculous. It was super interesting. I remember when I was training, 2 of the women who worked there, they asked me what I was, like, ethnically. And it kind of, like, I get asked that a lot, so I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh, my mom's black, my dad's white, so I'm, like, European, African. And I know why they asked me that. So I've been mistaken for different ethnicities out my life, and a few of the ladies, which is completely fine, I have no issue with it, but a few of the ladies used to speak a different language. And I think from what I understood and what I picked up when I first got there, I think they wanted to know that they could speak their language around me without me knowing what they were saying. Because, it's with any language. Usually, if people are speaking a different language around you, it's because they're either talking about you or they're saying shit they don't want you to hear. It's that simple. I'm the last thing from racist or any type of phobic, but that was very common. I don't find it rude. I just find it, like, if you don't want people to hear it, then you probably should take the conversation elsewhere. I don't let that petty shit bother me, because some of the women were twice my age acting like fools, but it was definitely interesting. Oh, something I loved. Time off. I understand throughout our lives we might have to work jobs we don't want, or that we don't per se, want to be in forever, whatever. I think the existence of requesting time off is fucking stupid. How are you going to tell me when I can and can't work? I remember I took off my birthday weekend. I took off a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I said my birthday, and I said birthday weekend. You wrote in a book and everything, and I remember my manager putting a question mark and saying, why? Why I don't want to work on my birthday and the next day? There was always an issue if someone wanted time off. I'm barely someone to ever call out of jobs. I only call out if I'm sick or I'm really not feeling well. You wake up, you're just not feeling it. I remember I woke up with like an allergic reaction, and I took medicine, and a lot of allergy medicines I take, they make me drowsy, whatever, and I just didn't want to go in. I didn't feel well. You usually don't feel well when you're having allergies. My manager texts me and goes, Haley, she goes, you're screwing us over. 3 people already called out today, and if you don't call out, there's going to be barely any cashiers. How is that my problem? At Zara, they were very demanding and wanted everything out of you for just so little. I feel like they didn't realize like they can do some of the work too. The environment when I worked there was very I felt like I was in like boot camp. It was super like this. I don't mind wearing uniforms. We had to wear a uniform. It was the shirt and like these slacks. Honestly, when you have uniforms, sometimes it's easier. You don't have to figure out what you're wearing. This was weird. I forgot to mention this. Your first 2 weeks at Zara, you have to wear all black. And then after your 2 weeks, that's when you get the uniform. So it was kind of like a freaking initiation thing. So your first 2 weeks, you're just wearing all black. And like that, I don't know, like it had nothing to do with how long the clothes take to come, none of that. It was their rule, wear all black, then you get your uniform. Super weird. Like every morning, you would get there early, like 9 or 10 or something. I think you'd leave at 7. So pretty much, yeah. So at Zara, you were either 3 things. You were a manager, you were a visual, so that's pretty much whenever you walk into a clothing store, the way things are set up, the visuals are doing that. Or you're a cashier. I was a cashier. One thing that very much annoyed me at Zara was they were always hiring people, but they never hired enough cashiers. Oh yeah, and I forgot, a 4th thing. You were floor. So if you're floor, all you're doing is walking around, patrolling, making sure no one's stealing anything, putting clothes back to here, there, all that. So they were low on cashiers. And I know it's summer, whatever. But I want to say there were probably 7 cashiers. And you think that's like, no. No, because there were, on the main floor, there were 6 registers. Upstairs, there were 2. The main floor was women's, upstairs was men's and kids. On the first floor of the 6 registers, at most, there were 3 or 4 girls at the registers. Upstairs, there was 1 person. And the lines were always crazy, like, and it wasn't, we weren't slow people. It's the fact of the way we like would handle the products, you have to clip them. So there was like a machine, and you take the product, you have to take the hangers off, you have to put the hangers in the back, like you're straight multitasking, clipping them, folding them, putting them in the bag. The system was very easy to navigate on the computers. We did more returns than sales. We did a lot of sales, but we did more returns because, like I said, this was the COVID era. You couldn't try stuff on in the store, and if you're doing online shopping, you obviously can't try stuff on. For pretty much the return process, that was fun. So, you bring your item in, whatever. If it's within the 30 days, that's great. If it wasn't, oh boy, people were mad. Sometimes people would want to make a purchase with their return money, so you just process the return, then use the balance that they, whatever. So with the returns, you would always have to have the card that you purchased it on. And because that's the best way for it to return. Sometimes people didn't have the card that they made the purchase on, so they're like, can you load it onto this card? Okay, we have to let you know that might not happen. I don't care, do it. Okay, fine, okay. It was pretty much a reverse system. We would get a tag, we would get a security tag, pop it on the clothing. The clothes, you had to put the tags on specific spots. If you didn't, that's a issue. That was a big issue. We had to study a manual, so pretty much I remember skirts, you would have to put the tag on the one side, on the seam. Shirts, you'd have to put it on the right side. Jackets, you'd have to put it on either the sleeve or something. Everything had a specific spot. You get used to it because you're dealing with the clothes. You pin it in. I forget how the return worked, but you put the pin back on, scan it, something, and you just load the money back to the person. And like I said, if they paid cash, we'd have to wait for a manager to come. But we did more returns than sales, and returns obviously take longer. With any place you're at, returns take longer because we have to process everything. You need your receipt. People thought they could return stuff without the receipt. Newsflash, how the fuck would we know it was here? How can we track it? People used to get mad that we couldn't track a return, yet the whole point of a return is to have the receipt so it can be tracked. Oof. Returns were crazy. Returns were very crazy. I would say with returns, that's when we had the most issues, definitely, with returns. Because, if you didn't meet the window, if you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and then you got to explain to them, like, I can't help you, and they're trying to give you all these options as to how you can help them, but you work there, so you know how to, yeah. But yeah, it was fast-paced, which made the shift go quick, but damn, it was very stressful for a job you were only getting paid so much for. It was super boot campy. Every time we got there, we would have a morning meeting. We would look for the security tags because crime rates and stealing, it's very high. We would have to run around the store, find all the security tags, and all this shit was weird. I remember one time, early mornings, and one time I sat down, tired as because they scheduled you like this, and I remember the visual looks at me and goes, stand up, don't sit down. And I literally, I wasn't laughing at her, but I was like, what? And she's like, stand up. I popped a squat for a second, and this bitch was yelling at me. Like I said, we were always short cashiers. The managers never hopped on the register, and if they did, they would hop on for 20 minutes and then get the fuck off. A few of the things I liked there was I did work with some really cool girls, and I never got their information because of how it ended, and I'll explain that in a second. I got along with most of the people, no one there was mean. I don't want to sit here and say it was mean. It was more so just the rules and the factors, and I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. And as someone who wants to get into clothing design, I love clothing. I love clothes. that aspect was great. You know, customers would come up to you, you know, you're checking people out and they're saying, oh, like, what would I wear this with? You know, and I'm like, you know, style advice, all that great stuff. I enjoyed it. You know, you're talking to people. I was talking to people for hours about clothes. Like, who the hell doesn't love that? So I worked, since I was 16 years old, I worked in restaurant. And, you know, if you know anything about restaurant, at least the ones I've worked at, you don't really get breaks. You kind of have to give yourself a break, and those are usually like 2, 3, 5 minutes. But at Zara, we had an hour break, and then 2 10-minute breaks or something like that. They were very persistent on your break is your break, and you better get out as soon as it's your break, you know, because they don't want to overpay, whatever. You'd have to clock out for your break. You can go shop, you can go get food, you can just chill in the break room. It was honestly really nice to have like an hour break, just some time to yourself. You know, you get back to your shift. That was fine. Another thing about Zara was, I don't think this is a thing with any other clothing, unless I never noticed because I've never worked at another clothing store. There were categories of clothing. So there was a circle, a square, and a triangle. And that was, so any Zara you go in, they're set up accordingly by those shapes. And at the end of the night, the store always looked a mess. You know, people just, this was the era where people couldn't try stuff on. So they're grabbing stuff, you know, looking, like maybe putting it over their clothes, whatever. So the store always looked a mess, clothes everywhere, clothes on racks, everything. So at the end of the night, you'd have to get all the racks, and I'm telling you, I would say we would have to put back at least 40 articles of clothing. And, you know, you got to walk around, find the shapes. Clothes were hidden behind clothes. Oh my God, the jeans, you had to put all the jeans in the right spots. There were at least 15 different jean types. So you're looking, you gotta figure it out, you gotta look at the shapes, you gotta look at the names. It was so stressful. That was insane. I have no issue with like a strict work setting, but it was strict in like an unfair type way. You know, you get there, you're working like a slave. When I mentioned the hangers, so pretty much at Zara, when you are dealing with the person, and this fun fact about Zara, no one at Zara, I don't know why, no one ever went to Zara for one article of clothing. Every customer you deal with, they have at least 10 items, which whatever, you know, shop your ass off. I'm not hating, but we're taking the hangers off, and there was like a rack behind us, and there were 3 racks. We'd have to put the hangers in, and the hanger racks would get full pretty quickly because, you know, clothing. So we'd have to grab the hangers, walk across, put a pin in, go to the hanger room, hang up all the hangers, and then if you were a cashier towards like the left side, there were always people who would come. They did like the in-store pickup with their packages. You got to go back to that room, the hanger room. There is at least 200 packages in there, numbered, but you gotta find it based off their last name. While all the customers, you gotta take a second, go back there. It takes at least 5 minutes to find the package. And most of the time, the person had more than one package. So get the package, scan it, sign it, give it to them. Run back to the register, keep going. I'm trying to think what else it was at Zara. So if I think of anything else, I'll cover it, but let me get into how I don't work at Zara anymore. So, like I said, my birthday weekend, I took off that week. I was off, and throughout, like, on my birthday weekend, I got a text, and the manager said, hey, like, what's going on with your schedule? And I was dealing with stuff at the time, aka nothing. Well, I just didn't answer. Sometimes I'm not good at answering my texts. No, my phone doesn't like billow with text messages. Sometimes I just don't ever get back to a text message because I just don't get back to a text message. It's nothing personal. So I failed to get back to my manager. A week and a half or so went by. I think what I did was I said like, I need to be off because like I'm starting school or something, because my birthday is right around when school starts. So I was like, I would have to figure stuff out. My school from where the mall was, it was an hour away, so it wouldn't work. And I think I said like, I'll let you know, or I'll keep in contact or something. Like, I think I was like, yeah, I said something along those lines, like, I'll let you know. I failed to let her know. So I get my email like 2 weeks later, an exit interview. I didn't know what it was, but I was assuming, okay, I'm exiting. So I filled it out because I was like, I don't want to work there. So, you know, I filled it out and it was like, thank you for your exit interview. So yeah, I guess I got fired, but like without the words of saying you got fired. You know, it clearly I wasn't that like gung-ho about the job if I didn't answer her. And I that is like one of the reasons why I never answered her. It definitely, you know, I will say that job is not on my resume. You should never put jobs that you get fired on your resume. And granted, I was only there for like 1.5, 2 months, so I can't really say I learned insanely much there. I learned a lot about the clothing aspect of retail. I will say in my opinion, I don't think all clothing companies are like Zara or are like the experience I had. And I'm not going to sit here and say, like, do not work there. The best way to say it just wasn't enjoyable. I enjoyed the drive to the mall. I enjoyed being in the mall. Another thing about Zara, they did bag checks. So I don't know if there was like a history of stealing. Like I said, it's the mall and theft is very common at malls. But if your shift was done or if you had to leave whatever, your break, anything, your break, your shift being over, you didn't just walk out. You had to say, hi, my break, or, you know, you'd have one of the girls say, oh, like, you know, her break's about to happen, can the manager come? The manager would walk you to the exit, check your bag, and then you come back in. So for your break, you get your bag checked, and then when you leave, you get your bag checked. It was for everyone, you know. I guess the workers were paranoid that like girls stole stuff. Like I said, most of the time when there's rules at these types of jobs, it's because it's happened before. So I'm assuming girls or boys or whoever worked there stole stuff. So yeah, I would get my bag checked. I understand it, but it's also like, why are you going to have people work for you if you can't trust them? Honestly, like the last thing I gave a fuck about was snagging clothes from there. Like I said, it was an interesting job. You know, if people ask me what your least favorite job was, it's Zara. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't, you know, like I said, it wasn't the worst, but I just didn't like it. I feel like I covered like everything about Zara. I'm gonna Google like, so I'm on. My brother told me if you ever want to know like what a job is like to work at, he says look on Glassdoor.com. If you ever, you know, for your future endeavors, look on Glassdoor. I looked up working at Zara. Like I said, I've never read stuff. I've never watched videos. I'm not saying those videos don't interest me as I'm making one, but I just never did. So there's no bias here. This was my full experience. Okay, so this is funny. The first one says, it's 1 star. It says terrible place to work. Before I started working at Zara, I read all these negative reviews and I thought they were exaggerations. It's no exaggeration at all, It's probably the worst place I worked ever in my life. Worst management I've ever seen. They do not, that's another thing I will say, they do not appreciate the hard work you do. I would say I'm a nice person, especially to people I don't know or customers I'm dealing with. Very nice. I was a great person to the customers. The management does not give a all they care is, oh, you're doing your job, you're dealing with them, I don't have to, great. That's another thing. They did not appreciate your hard work. You know, like I said, in jobs, I don't expect praise, but they never appreciated you, and they showed that. They did. Yes. Yeah, also, you were almost always getting called out over anything nitpicked. If you don't talk to the customer enough, they were mad. If you talk to the customer too much, they were mad. Sorry for being nice. Yes, This is hilarious. I'm reading this girl's review and it's everything I like literally think. Strictness, absolutely. So another thing about Zara is they're an international company, so they generate sales from other countries. That's a big thing. They are a multi-million-dollar company, like this girl said in here. They have a lot of money. People from other countries shop there. The last thing, I love this girl's review. It's hilarious. She said, advice to management, change your attitude and come down from your high cloud. Absolutely. You know, I think in any job in your life, you have to start somewhere. And you know, it seems like with a lot of these, not all the managers, but a lot of them, they had such a high horse. Like I said, they didn't want to do the other jobs of us. They didn't want to do floor. They didn't want to do cashier. So yeah, that is very true. There's 7,000 reviews. I'm not reading all these, but 60% of people recommend this job to a friend. I know 60 is like a majority versus like 50%, but 60% to recommend is not a high number. So yeah, I feel like I covered like I covered mostly everything in my experience at Zara, just things I could think of off the top of my head. If you want to work there, I'm not stopping you, but I will say you might not be there for long unless you're in a different location or it's great management. I personally did not like it. I wouldn't ever go back there just because, you know, I got fired, so why would I be like, please? It was more so, in total, it was just, I guess, the management and the rules that, like, wasn't appealing or wasn't good to me. It was great working with the customers, great clothing, great, you know, all that, but it was, you know, it was something. It definitely was something. Yeah, so that is my experience review on Zara. This video is a bit longer than I thought it would be, so I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna try to get another video up within the next week and a half or so. But yeah, that was my Zara experience. I hope this was interesting to you. Maybe I'll watch some of the other Zara experience reviews, like just to see if they match now, because I'm kind of intrigued now after this video I just filmed. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Subscribe. And I hope you guys have a great weekend ahead of you. It's May. Happy May. Woohoo. It's summer very soon. But yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye. Shout out to Zara, by the way. Don't hate on their clothing, though, because their clothing's like kind of nice. I will say that. But